Alright, welcome to the stream. I'm a few minutes late, but wow, look at that. Um, Hopefully you can join me on this little adventure here. There's a lot that's changed since last time. I was up super late last night working on this because I thought I had a deadline to submit to this publisher event today, but I had my dates mixed up, so it's not done yet, which is good. Gives me more time. That's good. It gives me more time to really get this thing into an even better shape before I send off a video to them. But as you can see on the screen here, there's quite a lot going on this little planet here. It's freezing, it's melting, there are volcanoes, the sun is spinning around, there's a lot going on. So I want to show all that to you, and I'm just going to take 1 second here just to check in on the chat and make sure everything is good on the stream. It looks good, and okay, here's the chat. I've got the chat up. So if you jump in the channel, just pop a message on the chat so I know you're there while I'm working and I can talk with you, shoot the shit. But until then, I'm gonna be doing some work here. So I have a list of things I wanted to do in the stream that I wanted to show you some progress I made and save development of a few things for the stream that I thought might be kind of interesting. So first I just want to show you what I did last night. Working on and earlier today working on this. I have some what I call noise images mapped over the surface of the Earth to help give it some detail, and maybe I will try to fix that to make the planet look a little better, but I'm going to move actually that further down the priority list here. I have these cloud rendering layers that I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you a little bit about how I actually gotta shoot that shit, that's right. That should be a task controller, shoot the shit. Show you a little bit about how I debug what I'm doing here, because it's a little bit unusual maybe for most people. I have these, this ability to have the terrain be high and low, and sometimes it can be hard to tell exactly how high you've made the terrain when you use your little paintbrush to deform it. So I thought maybe some fog would be helpful for that. Another thing that kind of goes along with the debugging is that I wanted to have a way that I could just kind of mouse over and quickly get surface properties like the temperature, the moisture in the air, whatever, that really helped me understand what's going on quickly. And could also end up being useful in the actual game as well. Probably won't have time for it, but maybe if we get to it, we can actually start trying to generate some wind. The basic thing is you use differences in temperature to create differences in air pressure, and then that creates wind. So it's this whole sort of chain of events. I have no idea what it's going to look like if I actually get that going, but hopefully some patterns would emerge. So, work from last night. Okay, so what I had previously, what planet? Let's see. Let me do a little recap of. This is kind of the state of things on the first stream. I had a thing where you could terraform the land, and there's water, and it could flow all over. And then you can see the water drain out there. And I had some other ones. Mountain painting, mountain pool painting. I like the way this one looked. It just had sort of a smooth style to it. Lava. So I added a feature where I could just go ahead and just throw some lava on the planet. So I went ahead and did that and tested it out, just splashing it all around and watching it ooze around. And I have another example of that here. And that's kind of where things were left off. Um, so with that said, let's look into what's going on now. So I wanted to have it. I was thinking about the video that I want to make to actually send to publishers, and the promise of the game is that the planet will change over time, which is actually a good segue. Oh man, so when I closed Steam, it seemed to have closed Mountain, which is really annoying. So I'm just gonna. I wanted to show you Mountain. I had it running. I thought, let's do some market research and just keep Mountain running in the background because it's sort of the closest point of comparison for the type of game I'm trying to make. So instead, I'll just show you a quick YouTube video. So it asks you to draw stuff. I'm not actually sure how it uses that, and then you have this mountain.
All right.
It's just sort of
kind of like how Minecraft.
Floating. And it's in space, and sometimes it gives you its little thought switcher. Is weird. And this is actually the older version of Mountain. There's a newer version with a little bit better graphics. And you've got some trees, you've got some rocks and things, and you've got pretty nice looking clouds actually. And it's floating in space. Yeah, you can zoom out. And if you zoom out even further, you can see, like, whoa, it's in space. And just things happen from time to time. Maybe it starts raining, maybe winter comes, the leaves fall off, and it snows. Sometimes random objects crash land from outer space. Like cars and things. Or there was a trombone one time. Okay, yeah, I know, Dustin. Yeah, there's not that much interactivity. One of the fun things I actually found out is certain keys on the keyboard, you can play musical notes, and it kind of puts them in a key so you can play around, and even though you don't know what you're doing, it kind of sounds good. So that's a neat little thing. So that's that game. Oh yeah, here you can see it became winter time and it's all snowy. And the idea is you can just leave it running on your desktop and every once in a while and check back in on it. So, with that said, I was thinking about, like, what if I could have a video of this where it starts off kind of like a primordial Earth, and then over time it actually changes to be more like the Earth we know today. So it goes through this like crazy volcanic phase, and then eventually that kind of cools off, and then you start having rain that creates the liquid oceans, and then you just start having land, and maybe if it gets cold enough there's some ice. And so I should give you a little example of what I get here if I hit play. So it's hot, it almost looks like the sun, right? Because I started off the surface super hot, and I have a core temperature. The core adds a little bit of heat, but not enough to keep it from cooling down beyond that. And these volcanoes grow. I kind of increased the speed at which they pop in just to show you quickly. These volcanoes sort of spewing out some lava and growing and changing the shape. And it cooled off really quickly. And now we've got some ice all over the planet. We've got some liquid water, and as the sun goes around, you can see the ice kind of fades away and then comes back. And of course, in the final thing, it won't be quite that responsive. It'll take a lot of day and night cycles to actually see significant change in the amount of ice on the planet. You can see new islands are still growing with the volcanism. Eventually, one day, I want to have it where I have like plate tectonics, and there's certain regions where the volcanoes pop up, but right now there's kind of random all over the place. And you can see that there's, if I zoom in here, the lava is actually flowing down these suckers, and that's why you have all these black trails. It's like wherever the lava was, it kind of leaves a black trail. And look at this guy growing. Basically, wherever the rock got hot enough to melt, I consider that as lava, and when it cools, it leaves like black lava volcanic rock behind. And so that's kind of where things are. And I don't know what I did, but somehow I lost my ability to actually deform the terrain. Might have been when I was messing with the lava stuff, because the under the hood kind of code, it's using the same code to throw that lava on there from these volcanoes as when I just paint with the mouse. So I'll figure that out soon enough, but I want to also talk about clouds in the atmosphere. So as it's evaporating and raining, you know, before you get rain, you have to have clouds, right? And I kind of wanted to first just a way to see where it's raining a little more directly, and then that's ultimately going to be useful for the visuals to put in the video. It's like, hey, the planet has weather. So I started working out a little cloud renderer, and how it works is basically I just take that same spherical mesh for the planet, and then I just render it with a different shader that can do different coloring on it and deform it. And so I was working on the clouds, and as I was working on it, I noticed that also I could use that same thing just to make a nice sort of atmosphere halo around the planet. So I have this clouds object and the atmosphere object, which use the same shader, the same code, but different parameters to it, so they're considered different materials. You know, I have this material here, so the clouds one has this image on it that's sort of like a noisy, cloudy texture, and then the atmosphere one wasn't supposed to have that. It's supposed to just be all white. But it's not turned on right now. And then if I go ahead and turn that guy on, and then what's the alpha of this guy? Okay, why is that guy? Oh, maybe I need to make it bigger? Yeah, the render height's not high enough. And it's using clouds right now. I don't want it to use, there we go. So I can make it sort of like use the atmospheric data of where moisture is, or particulate matter in this case. You can see this volcano kind of threw up some ash. There's going to be a lot of parts of this simulation when it's done. Yeah, the labeling's working for now. I went ahead and made sure to update it just before I started the stream. Hopefully, neither the Streamlabs OBS nor Restream.io are going to mess with that, so I'll have to check back in on it now and then to make sure it's not messing it up. But, okay, clouds, freaking clouds, and atmosphere. So yeah, I can make it use the clouds, or I can just say, you know what, make it kind of a constant color all around, and so I get this nice atmosphere glow around it. And I can tweak with it. I can make it, you know, smaller, bigger. So, and this slider right here lets me control like how much it conforms to the surface of the planet. Is it just like a constant radius sphere, or does it kind of move, you know, like where my volcanoes are, kind of follow that contour? So for the overall atmosphere, I want it to be pretty constant, but for the clouds, I thought it would look nice if it slightly follows that contour. So I can make the atmosphere bigger or smaller, just kind of artistically, but I want to make it big enough that it's going to cover the little volcanoes here. And then another thing I'm noticing as I'm adjusting it that'll be nice is to put like a depth-based alpha on it, because right now there's sort of this hard cutoff right here where it intersects the volcanoes. Now for the time being I'll just make it high enough that it won't happen, but there's some tricks you can do to make it fade out a little smoother if that does happen. So when I put it that big, that's really bright though, especially when the sun comes, right? Yeah, it makes that really bright. And so, I have a way to soften the edge here. So I have this thing I call Fresnel, and I can adjust that. Make it like if I don't have that on, then it's like a really hard thing, and then it kind of softens the edge. And I kind of like it. I just want a very faint kind of edge to it. So 2.6 looks, well, when the sun comes it gets a little too crazy, so maybe like let's just leave it at about 3 something. So the sun's gonna come around again, it's gonna light up my atmosphere, yeah. And then what's the other thing I wanted to do with it? I can adjust just the overall opacity of it. Right now it's pretty opaque. I can just bring that down a little bit if I want. Alright, so there's the atmosphere. and I have my cloud renderer. Now I've been having trouble getting the cloud renderer to actually render, clouds. I've got it rendering sort of the ash and smoke from my volcanoes a little bit, but I'll deal with that later. Or will I? An interesting. Well, I should come back to that after I do that surface properties of raycast, so I can kind of look. Hey, should there be any clouds here? Like what is the water in the atmosphere? So like I said, like if I look directly down on this, right, I can't really tell the surface gradient that well unless the sun comes at a nice sharp angle. You can see that it's got quite a bit of height, but the lighting in like the default Unity shader is pretty soft in this case. So I'm going to see if I can put a little bit of fog on that. And one way I thought about doing that is using post-processing. So I imported the post-processing stack here into Unity. Actually, I shouldn't have paused it because now it's back at like crazy hot sun mode. So I'll just let that run while I look up the post-processing stuff here. So Unity gives you, it's gotta be some kind of prefab or something. So I'm wondering what this looks like. All scripts, components. I don't know if there are any actual prefabs in here. So what I'm gonna do with that, I think, is do a quick Google search. Unity post-processing stack, they call it. After one night, it is really looking like a game and not just an orb in Unity space. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's whoa. Yeah. It was all nice and dark there. That was it's gonna be really cool, I think, when people come back to it. They're gonna be like, whoa, it's so different from before. What the hell happened? I really like watching that ice grow and shrink away. The only thing is, like, right now, I have this noise mapped to the surface of the planet, and I'm using it for several things. I'm using it for transitions between the different types of land material. I'm using it a little bit to shape the lava. I'm using it to shape the ice. And so you get like different things that should be kind of unrelated looking like they're connected, like how that ice is growing in those like deep blue veins of the ocean, and then those connect to the land because that's actually just like the black land under the ocean, giving it that darker blue color. So I want to disconnect those from each other at some point. So is there a tutorial here for how to use this stuff? I might just need to look up a tutorial. Maybe I should have used the package manager to get version 2 of the post-processing stack. You know what? That's what I'm gonna do. I think I did this wrong. So I kind of want to just delete this from my project. Because I don't believe any of that was originally there. Some of it was, apparently. Let me see what I actually changed when I imported that post-processing stuff. So I'm just going to let it run this process. So what are your thoughts on how the planet's going, how it's transforming over time? There's definitely some stuff I need to tweak on it, like it goes from like a hot volcano planet to a frozen planet really quickly, and so I need to tweak some things there. What I really want to do is actually do a little research off the stream about like actual physical properties of the Earth, of the Sun, how much heat Earth gets from the Sun. Now the ultimate goal is to have lots of different kinds of planets, but I think if I start with values for the Earth, then that'll give me a good baseline that I can branch out from. Yeah, definitely the time. And I sped up a lot of stuff just for the purposes of testing, because this game is meant to run for hours. I don't want to wait hours every time I want to test some change I made to the code, so I kind of made it really fast for that purpose. Like all that change you saw, like that should be something that happens like probably over the course of a couple of hours, if not a full day. Assets. So I'm gonna, unless I'm in the workspace. Yeah, so none of that post-processing stuff was there before. So I'm just gonna delete all that shit from my project and start fresh. Get that shit out of here. Okay, so and these are things that I was actually doing for the atmosphere work. And I'm not sure what this is. Oh. I'm gonna go ahead and save that work to my online server for the atmosphere stuff. I have no idea if that's like how different it'll be when the game's done, like how I actually render the atmosphere. Like there are ways to do much more nice and realistic looking things, but for now this is good enough. Sometimes you gotta know what's good enough and what needs more love. Okay, so I'm done with that. Package manager. What was it? Here. Package manager. Search. Post-processing. No results. Oh, there we go. Let's install that sucker. View documentation. Oh yeah, totally understand. Quick start. Give me the quick start. On the camera, add a post-processing layer component. And mask of layers will need to be considered for. At the moment, I don't really care about volumes. Do I need volumes? They have these things called post-process volumes. Is by like you put it like just a region in 3D space called a volume, and that has settings to control the post-processing. Unable. Oh, I gotta check out manifest.json. Okay. Let me just go ahead and adding post-processing package. Bam. Let me try again. So I should probably add a post-processing volume to my planet, or just in the scene. And then that should have all the settings for my post-processing, and then it should just basically work. And then I just have to tweak things. Okay, sucker's installed. Let me make sure that I store all those changes in a different sort of collection of changes that I can kind of manage. So I'm just going to do that really quickly. Can we request music? So I don't know if you noticed in the chat, there's that Pretzel Rocks thing. And it's just something I found quickly. Where is it? To play music, like license-free music in the background. If you don't like a song, I can skip to the next one. Or if you know, like, if there's a station that you want, I thought chiptune was good, like, for gamers and for programming. So you can request music, but like for legal reasons, I can't play like Rage Against the Machine or something, because then I would have, like, if I'm broadcasting, I'd have to have licensed that from them somewhere. I mean, maybe they wouldn't find out, but I'm not going to take that risk. And then I think also there's algorithms that actually detect if you've used licensed music and will like turn off your ability to save the videos, save your VODs. So I'll go ahead and just skip to the next song. Okay, so to my camera, I need to add a post-processing layer. And then I'm just in the scene, I'm going to do a post-process volume. And this thing is really small. Really small. So I'm going to make it bigger. Is global. I'll just make it global. Bam. Did that do anything? And I need to create a new post-process profile. So these are post-process profiles associated with my scene that I'm calling Planet. And there are no effects. So, see, I should be able to add a bloom just to see, make sure it's working. Or depth of field. Depth of field could be good. Bloom is kind of like a double-edged sword. Sometimes it can look nice, but sometimes it can be crazy. But I'm going to add it just to see if I can see the effects in the game. I don't really like this song either. I don't know who Chipsil is. I'm going to skip theirs. Dan's song. Okay, I think I kind of have to listen to that. Okie dokie. So, the volume's there. The camera has its layer has been set. Set everything. Let's put default. Anti-aliasing could be good. Don't really care about this thing. That's a performance killing thing. I won't deal with. I'll look at anti-aliasing later. But for now, I only have one post-processing volume, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. Let's put everything again. So let's see what happens when I hit play here. If I, ooh, there was a second at depth of field. Whoa, now it's like reversed. The planet's all blurry, so that's definitely having an effect. You can definitely see the bloom. I'm gonna tweak this profile here. It lets me. Doesn't seem to let me change it while things are playing, which is really weird. Or at all? Oh, I have to check the boxes. Gotcha. Glowy stuff. So I'd rather put the blur on the background there, not on the planet. So let's adjust this. So what is the distance? So the camera is about maybe 3 units away from the planet. So let's try to make it like 2 or 3. There we go. Ooh, that's extra good. Ooh, and you get just around the fringes. I want to make that a little less. So I'm going to change the aperture a little bit, make it a smaller aperture. Should have less depth of field effect, I believe. Or is it the other way? Oh, it's the other way. Huh. I think in real life it works the other way, but I could be mistaken. Yeah, I like that, where it looks like just kind of like, oh, it's the stuff basically on the back of the planet that's blurry. And the bloom is obviously a separate thing. Although that actually seems to be affected. That looks like a bloom, but I think it's actually the depth of field making that blur there. So if I turn off the bloom, yeah, it's not really making it makes a minor difference, if anything. So I like how it softens the edges. I don't like how it makes the volcanoes look all crazy and shaky. I turn off the max blur size, make it down a little bit. Maybe I'll make it just a little less depth of fieldy. I really like how it softens up the background there. It's funny because I actually scaled up the background just to soften it kind of in a fake way on the game object for that. Where is it? Connected to the camera, I have this sprite and I scaled it up. If I put it back down to 1, you get more, a little bit more going on inside the actual camera's view. But I don't know what I like better. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you like that? Or like that? Or I don't know why I'm worrying too much about this, but this one's like, this one is a little uneven between the left and the right, so I think I'm gonna keep it that way. It feels a little more balanced. Alright, so there's my planet. Look at all this that happened. Like, this whole planet formed itself just from my volcanoes. Like, I didn't have to actually click on anything. There's a whole ocean here. I need to get it where I'm actually getting some rain evaporating. So that's the post. So the other effect, the whole reason I thought of this in the first place is because I wanted some fog. And there doesn't seem to be any fog. I wonder if ambient inclusion will make this look better. Ooh, maybe that'll do it. Instead of having to use fog, you just use ambient inclusion. But let me pause the spinning of this thing for a second here. Wow, that gets crazy at the extremes. Only thing is, it seemed to flicker a little bit, and so I was concerned about that. So where's my planet? I want to stop the planet rotating, but still continue the simulation. And is it the rotation that created that flicker? I don't know. Come back, son. Or maybe it's not that at all, and it's actually just, I have a little bit of flicker with the ice sometimes, and I think that's what's going on. When it's like right on the melting point threshold, it kind of keeps going back and forth. Of course, once I slow all the time stuff down, that'll be much less of a thing, and there's some other things I also want to do, because like right now, it's like some things happen like immediately, like, oh, you crossed the freezing point, so everything is going to turn to ice in that little area. And have it blend a little smoothly over time will be what I need to do. So post-process fine. If I turn off the ambient occlusion, that really does a good job of highlighting some of the detail. And the cool thing is it's a post-process, so it doesn't matter how crazy my geometry is, it just kind of works. So I like that. I still think I want to add some fog as well. Unity 2018. I know there's a way to do like in your shaders for your materials, but it's easier to just do it as a post-process. Deferred fog. Let's see here. I don't know if I'm using deferred rendering or not. You think I would know? Maybe everything's deferred now? There used to be like options, like graphics settings. Edit, project settings, graphics. Okay, let's see what I'm doing here. I am using what to do. It's not really clear to me if I'm using defer or not. Unity kind of abstracts it away from you in a way that's pretty cool. So there's something with fog modes. I'm going to assume I'm using deferred. Window lighting settings. Oh, maybe I can... I prefer to have I might have to do it myself because I'd prefer to have it be like a height fog that comes out from the center of the planet. But I can also just, as a cheap effect, do it based on the distance from the camera. That might help a little. So Windows, lighting settings apparently is where I have all the fog info. Other settings, fog. Let's turn it on. Density. Okay, there's some fog. Does that? I think it kind of fades out my planet. Ooh, what is that noise? Is that the fog? No. Is that the post-process? Hold on a second. Or is it just something? It's probably something of my own. I'm too quick to blame the post-process. Oh, it is the post-process. Wow, weird. I wonder if, like, it looks so nice here, but at the top of the screen for some reason it's going crazy. It might be a problem only in the editor. I should make a build. Yeah, it's at the bottom too. Just to find out. And of course, if I bet it. Oh, look at that, my thing kind of just fogs away when I. What does it look like? I don't know. But if I look here, if I'm close enough, it still doesn't help, and it doesn't. I don't like the way that is. If when I zoom out, I mean. So I think I'm gonna have to do something custom here. And it's exponential fog. I think I'd rather make it linear. Ugh, that's too close. I need to like dynamically adjust the focal distance based on how zoomed in I am of the depth of field effect, because that gets really blurry. I don't know if that's really helping me detect how high things are. The linear fog's okay. That depth of field is too strong. I like how the amount of blur it has on this background star thing, but what I could probably do is just move that back further and then adjust the depth of field settings to not be so crazy. And then the planet won't get like a little bit of blur when I zoom out. Like, that's okay. Actually, the background's still kind of nicely blurred, to be honest. But what I was going to say is if I take this and I move it back further, it should theoretically get more blurred, except I think it's kind of maxed out already. Let me see here if because I put a max blur size. Doesn't really seem to make a difference. Yeah, it's not really making a difference. Okay, that gets pretty blurry. And I make the aperture really tiny. And then it's like I'm playing with like a dollhouse. God, I can't even get it right. Kind of like that. Maybe that's too much. I think that's good. Yeah. What things will you be able to control? So, right now, I want to have a way, like you saw previously how I could sort of like paint the terrain, so I'm thinking that you'll be able to sort of do a little initial shaping of the planet, and then the game will kind of take that into consideration when it does like volcanism and things. And then if you want, you can just let it go without really doing much. Um, but I think I'll keep the ability, like even as the simulation's going, you can start shaping the terrain and change things. Just go, oh look, what if I add some mountains here or destroy these mountains here? You know, how will that affect how things develop on the surface of the planet? So that's kind of the idea. Look at all that soot in the sky that's developed. I really need to take a pass at making it better looking, because it still kind of follows like the shape of the polygons. But overall, it's not going to be like a game in the normal sense of a game. I would say more like a toy or a pet. Except it's a lot easier to take care of than a pet. Goodbye water. If I can fix it, there was a really cool thing that I was doing where I could just stamp down some lava in the middle of the ocean and all the water would boil away. You'd see the ocean kind of shrink down where I stamped that lava, and then eventually it would cool off and it would come back in. So let's see, did those settings save? I believe they did. So what I want to do is see if that ambient occlusion still has those weird problems outside the editor. And I wish I knew why. So the reason... Wait. Am I drawing stuff? Oh, maybe the paintbrush just isn't strong enough. Oh no, it's the rotate. I have a problem where if the planet rotates, it throws everything off. So if I turn off the rotation, I'll be able to play with stuff. Yeah. Kind of looks like the sun when it starts, doesn't it? I mean, early in the solar system's history and Earth's history, it almost probably was like a mini star, super hot, except just not enough mass to get the nuclear fusion that our sun has that keeps it burning hot. So I can go and I can paint some lava down. I don't think I had this on the last stream. It was only afterward. Paint some heat, and you can see it kind of like deforms the water a little bit. That's interesting. I guess that's like all the smoke from the heat I laid down. All this white stuff. And ooh, I can melt some ice. Bam. Yeah, and then it slowly refreezes. I'm gonna do like a much softer touch here. Yeah, so I didn't put enough heat to create lava, but it just kind of melts the ice. Make a really tiny brush to see if I can write. It freezes again. Take a piss and watch it freeze before it hits the ground. It would be cool to place your planet different distances from the sun, different results. That's exactly what I'm thinking, actually, is that you can... I forgot to mention that. Thanks for making me think of it, which is like kind of the whole conceit in the first place. Like sometimes I get so caught up in all these little details I forget about like the original idea. And the original idea is that yeah, you can control all those parameters of your planet. You can say like how far is it from the sun, how hot is the sun, what's the radius of your planet, how fast does it spin, what's its axis tilt. The tilt of the axis is actually, I think, a really interesting thing, because that's what gives us the seasons. And you can see right, like on this planet, how like this half of the Earth is all liquid water most of the time, and this half is ice. I did that's because the sun's kind of facing this side. Honestly, on the Earth, this whole half would be nothing but ice if the Earth didn't actually spin relative to the how it's, you know, if it had the same side always facing the sun. But you can see if I actually make the planet spin again, let's make it spin kind of fast, that ice will kind of grow in the nighttime and shrink away in the daytime. But it's easier to see in this view. So yeah, you can see like the planet's actually spinning and the camera's attached to it, and that star field is spinning behind it. It's like a quick cheap hack. That's actually what's going on. And the sun is kind of shining in this direction, so on the bottom you can see like there are parts where it's just permanently ice because it never gets any direct sunlight, and up here it's pretty much permanently liquid water because it's usually getting sun. So this is sort of summer in the northern hemisphere. But what I could do is change the light direction and rotate it so that it's kind of facing upward, and that's totally going to invert it. And now the South Pole is a lot cooler and you've got a lot of ice in the northern hemisphere. So there's a lot of simulation going on, and I get pretty, I guess, giddy just thinking about it. It's pretty cool. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this project, is just because I thought it'd be fun to work on. So sometimes I lose my train of thought. Oh yeah, the debugging. So I'm gonna make what's called the build of the game. So right now I'm in the Unity editor, but I can turn the game into its own exe, its own program, and see if that problem with the ambient occlusion still happens. And what ambient occlusion means is like basically if something's like in a corner, it doesn't get as much light, so it looks a little darker, a little shadowed. And the ambient occlusion effect will kind of look at stuff that's kind of more, has more like corner-like, basically, to give it a little bit of shadowing. So I'm gonna, could have sworn I guess I only made a build on the other computer. So while that's going, let's take a look at what I have to do here. So I showed the work from last night. We took a look at the cloud rendering layers. I'm not like totally happy with how that is, but so maybe we'll come back to that at some point. Working on the post-processing now, and then after that, oh yeah, I want to show you like crazy ways that I visualize what's going on the planet, and maybe come up with an additional way to help me that's less crazy. And then maybe if we can look at like getting the details on the planet looking less sort of tiled or repeated, and then trying to do some wind, because wind is a big part that helps carry heat basically from near the equator to closer to the poles to spread that heat around, so the heat doesn't vary quite so dramatically across the planet as it does in my simulation so far. Then a meteor, yeah, dude, we're on the same wavelength. I was thinking like there need to be like events that happen, you know, and a meteor is one thing that can happen. And so once that's done, we'll take a look at it, and I'm gonna quickly grab some water. It would take me 1 second. Oh, I have water. And once that build's done, see if it looks good or not. Maybe I can get like a Final Fantasy VII summon. I miss my mountain. So I do think I might still want to put some kind of depth fog, but I think that'll come probably later when I really get more atmospheric rendering. Like some games have like, you know, the big AAA games have really crazy big like nice realistic atmosphere rendering. Also, what's that game? No Man's Sky. Sephiroth shows up, uses your planet as a spacecraft to travel the cosmos. Maybe Galactus comes to eat it, and Silver Surfer is the harbinger. So I don't want to go quite as crazy probably as some of those AAA games, but I think there's a lot I can do to make the atmosphere look a lot nicer eventually. Which means if I'm going to go the route of doing a better atmosphere rendering, I probably don't want to spend too much effort on the fog stuff right now. Hopefully this, this ambient occlusion will give enough perception on like how high the terrain is. Take a small window. And let's see. There are some weird streaks that I think are the ambient occlusion, so that's weird. Yeah, what the hell, Unity? How do you ship this shit? This is so broken. It looks good in the middle of the screen, but by the edges it's garbage. So that's no bueno. Is there something I can do to fix that? Maybe I can fade it out around the edges of the screen so you just don't see it so much. Okay, so let me pause the game. I mean, if I bring down the intensity, that also helps, but what the hell is that? Ambient only works with cameras running deferred plus HDR. Oh yeah, it's a camera that controls if it's deferred, a thing called deferred rendering or not. Huh, physical camera. Interesting. That's for like movies and shit. Use graphics settings. And what do the graphics settings say? Use HDR, rendering path is forward. So now I'm doing forward rendering. I'm not using deferred, so I wonder if I switch to deferred. Stuff might go crazy. But let's try it. That didn't seem to help. Maybe I didn't. I should be. How do I select which one I'm using now? Quality. There's a thing called quality. So right now, default's ultra quality for everything. So hopefully I can get these settings done pretty quickly here. You know what? A quick test just to make sure I'm got going what I think I've got going. Let's just do it directly on the camera and override it. And you still see that nasty line there. Can you change it? I'm surprised everything pretty much works okay though. Huh. Wow, Unity's really gotten way more advanced. Maybe if I do something with this target texture, I don't know. I'm really sad though. Really sad that I can't use this effect. But maybe I can do something similar on my own. Like, simple cheap hack is just say like land that's lower is just a little bit darker. So I'll try that. So where is my shader? I should. I need to get rid of those bands first. So maybe I can keep this, but just maybe there's a different mode. Oh, look at that. That was called multi-scale volumetric obscurance. This is called scalable ambient obscurance. Okay. So let's see how much of an effect that has. I'm gonna go here and paint some terrain. So cool that I can modify it as the simulation is running. Yeah, see, I couldn't really tell, like, this looks, can't see the nuances in the shape of that geometry from directly above. You know, if I were to paint over here, it's a little easier to see, but also a little harder to paint. But yeah, that ambient occlusion actually, without it, was like, it's like impossible. By adding it, you can see a little bit of like shadow right here, for example. And if I scale up the intensity, it's pretty good. I think I still want to add a little bit of fog anyway. It's shaping up. What, puns, or is that a specific thing from a specific movie? Or just general fucking puns? Or that specific pun? Oh, there is a little bit of like a checkerboard pattern with the ambient occlusion though, so I don't think I can go that intense with it. It's maybe hard to see on the screen, on the stream, but I can definitely see it here. It's funny because I've noticed, actually, crazy enough, a similar thing sometimes when I was playing Uncharted 4, where that game looks fantastic, because sometimes I notice this weird sort of dithering effect on the screen. I think mostly in cutscenes, and I'm sure with some optimization they're doing for something like this ambient occlusion. Yeah, there's that, and then there's that. That looks a lot better. It also adds, well, it has a little like darkness around. Oops. Oh no, that I thought I painted. No, a volcano just spontaneously popped in there. Definitely need to adjust dynamically the depth of field. Surprising that I can't have a way to. It's weird because I don't want to. So in Unity you have this concept of things that live in the scene and things that live outside the scene, that are just in the project. And this post-processing profile lives outside the scene in the project, which means like it's weird to like dynamically change the values in here since it doesn't actually live in the scene. Just being punny. Gotcha. I approve. So I'm going to do a quick Unity. Oh, I can. There's deferred fog, but I think the way I want to do fog is not camera based at all, but just based on the planet. Like, there's a little bit of atmosphere. The weird thing is it might fight a little bit with the depth of field, because the depth of field shadows things. Oh, interesting how it kind of changes as I scroll around. That's a little weird, to be honest. Oh, I fixed this. There was a problem with the shadows. I think it. Oh yes. not gonna work because no, I thought I fixed the shadow thing. Weird. Because in my shader, I was thinking I'm gonna turn off, but I'm not even rendering my atmosphere. So the mesh I render is just a sphere, like a perfect sphere, and then in my shader I do some things to distort it so you get to see the mountains and everything. But the way Unity does shadows, it wasn't taking that into account, but I thought I fixed that. With some stuff I did here, this add shadow thing. So that's really bizarre. Maybe that works for shadows, but not. But this should be operating on the depth buffer, which doesn't care about that. Weird. So it looks like I can't use that at all. Plus, the colors kind of shift around on you anyway. So I'm not sure I like that. So I need to do something. So the only thing I'm really getting out of this post process is the depth of field, which I like, except when you get really zoomed in, it's kind of nasty. Here's an autofocus, that's what I want. Yeah, this is weird because this example is changing it on the profile, but it's kind of weird to change it at runtime because it's like data that lives outside your scene. So I'm going to make a new script called depth of field adjuster, and I guess I'll just deal with it. Because even if it changes that value, like I don't really care what it is, because it's always going to change at runtime anyway. So on my camera, and then scripts, where are my scripts? I call one depth of field adjuster. I'll just call it dynamic depth of field. So I'm going to do a raycast. Now normally in Unity it gives you some functionality to do raycast, but because I'm doing all this crazy stuff on the graphics card, I have my own little raycaster. So I need to use that thing. Public planet raycaster. Actually, I don't need that. I just need to know the rough distance between my planet and the camera. Maybe. Except when I get really close. I will still need that, I think. Kind of. But in the case that I'm not looking at directly at the planet for some reason, I won't adjust the depth of field. Damn. Caster. Raycast. Third dot. Raycast. I have to get a ray that basically represents the center of the camera. Point in the direction it's looking. Transform dot position. No, so I have to go and I get the position and the orientation of the camera and I pass it through to this little raycaster. Data forward is what I want. So this is an interesting thing. So normally, if you want to do anything, you can say do this thing and then give me the result. For example, bar result equals, right? And then you can immediately do something. But because the code I'm looking at here is running on the CPU, but I'm actually doing my raycast in the GPU, it has to basically put that command in a list, and then at some point in time the graphics card will go and process it, and then I can get the result back. So I have to do this weird sort of this waiting game where I say when the raycast is done, call this code here that I'm going to call on raycast completed, and that will happen probably the next frame, or maybe later this frame. And I'm just copying the sort of formatting that I need for that result to come to me. If it didn't hit, if I'm not actually looking at anything, then don't do anything. And then I'm going to set the raycast distance. Oh, I should cache the camera. I need to know what camera to affect. I'm assuming that I'm going to attach this script to a camera. And how do I actually get the data I want to affect? Get component post. What do you call that? There's a component I added called post-process layer. So why is that not showing up? Oh, I think yes, that's why. So in programming, you have these things called namespaces, and you can kind of think of it as like if you have an address, this is like the state it lives in, and so you can't say I'm on, or maybe even the city, this is the city, and I can't say give me the thing in 9th Street if it doesn't know where 9th Street is. So now it knows basically that I'm considering Ocala or whatever, you know, the city of post-processing. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and get this. Equals. And then from that guy, I can get the settings dot profile. I thought. Where the heck do I get the profile? Oh, it's in the volume. Maybe I should just assign this post-process volume, and that's the easiest way. Yeah, okay. Or maybe I can get the active volume from this thing. Okay, instead of, I'm gonna have to assign the volume, so it knows where to get the data that it's gonna modify. Oh, I can create a new profile. Look at that. so that way I can modify it with that, and it just lives in the scene now, fixing the concern I had earlier. Huh? What in the world? Get setting. Aha. So sometimes when you look up code examples online, the way to program in that system changes over time, especially Unity has a lot of change, so sometimes it's not exactly accurate anymore and you need to kind of figure out how to do what you want to do in the new system. So I'm going to get the depth of field settings from it, and then I'm going to modify. Float distance equals the length of the from the camera to the point where the ray cast hit the planet minus the camera position. Oh, point not hit. Oh, I already have a distance. Look at that. Ha 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 ha. Deal settings die. Focal length. What's the difference between focal distance? That's what I want. Yes. Sounds similar. Focal length, focal distance, but focal distance is the distance from your camera to the thing you're looking at, and focal length is actually the distance between your lens and the sensor. And I don't want to directly set that. I want to slow transition over a certain period of time. To distance and times I'm gonna call it the focusing speed. So where does the focal length and the focus distance are related to each other? Like, you need a certain focal distance to focus, focal length to focus on a thing at a certain distance. But anyway, focusing speed is a variable I'm going to create just to help me tweak it. Gotta have lots of tweakers when you're making games. And I'm gonna have to assign it back. Maybe I don't need to do it? I don't know. This is not a... Let me do it just in case. No? Alright, I guess I'll call it set setting. Profile.set. Or set dirty, I guess. Set dirty. So dirty. Yeah, I can override it. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff for how to change this stuff. can just use their little built-in functionality there. Interp. Because the value, I guess, is read only. I don't know. What is this? Is out of date? Deprecated? Maybe it'll just work. Let's see. Let's see. So I gotta go take the code I just created and add it to my camera, which I called dynamic depth of field. I have to assign the things. Where is my raycaster? Oh, it's living right there, living on the edge. Alright, let's see how that works. So let me draw some stuff here. Especially tall stuff. And I think it's focusing. I need some more details before I can really tell. Maybe not. Maybe not. Huh. So let me see what the heck's going on here. .3 is what I want it to be, but right now it's 0.3. Maybe I don't understand what this is, or maybe it's just not updating. Unity. You didn't know how to do this in Unity, of course. But I need the programming part of it, not just the tweaking stuff in the editor. Focal distance from the camera. That's what I want, focal distance. Oh, that makes it focal size effects, like the depth range of how much stuff is considered in focus. Gotcha. If I go to my push versus volume, and then I look at the profile, the focus distance for some reason isn't really changing. Maybe we should be able to see. Get out of here, Asset Store. I don't need you. Don't need you around no more. I zoom in, and then the camera's closer. 0.9 at that point. Hey, that seemed to work. It works when I zoom way out. It just seems to I can't get closer than a certain distance. So something's working here. The focal distance took too long to adjust. I'm gonna change that. Make it like 10. Maybe that was a problem. I just needed to make it adjust faster. So with that being said, do I want to now increase the depth of field a little bit? That looks kind of nice. I don't know, is that too blurry or does it look good? One thing I don't like is how it kind of makes that lava flicker. But other than that, I like it. And then what I could do is, right now my dynamic depth of field thing just says, yep, however far the planet is, make that your focal distance. But I kind of would like, if I zoom way out, to give it a little bit of a blur. So I'm kind of thinking that I can multiply it by like a number a little bit less than 1, the distance, and therefore like as I zoom out it'll slowly separate. Let's try that. Float, distance factor equals 1. Float effective distance, or desired distance equals the raycast distance times distance factor. So take another look at it. If you didn't see it last time, you can see, oh wait, I gotta change the settings again because they did not take. Well, maybe I shouldn't instance the settings. Just makes it easier to play with. Bring the aperture down a little bit. It's harder to see right here because everything's gray. And is that? I wonder if that's the clouds that are causing that harsh line. So I'm going to turn this off for a second. And it... I don't know anymore. Just don't know. Oh, another thing I also added, which you can kind of see here, is that I added erosion over time. So the volcanoes start relatively steep, and over time they'll sort of soften and get rounder. And of course, that's way accelerated, so I could test it. You know, in the real version, I'll have it happen way slower. And this is actually making me think that I should store all this stuff in some separate settings, objects, and like different presets, and I can use one when I'm developing, and another one for the actual game. That makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of sense. So where's my post-process volume profile? So if I go back to the games, you're gonna update if I change the stuff. No, I have to be running. So that's too much for sure. Kind of like it right there, maybe. See how that snow is kind of flickering there? Because I think what's happening is it's just like, it's either transferring heat back and forth with the rocks, or more likely it's actually a rain thing where there's like somehow rain evaporating. And you know what? I just realized I don't think I made it so rain only evaporates from liquid water as opposed to ice. So I should do that. I'm gonna make a note. I'm gonna make a note, if you don't mind. Where is it? Water should evaporate only if in liquid state. It's handy to have a little list here. Anytime I have no idea, I just throw it in here. Not frozen. And I'm kind of move that up in priority a little bit. Oh look, post-processing, that's in progress. Yeah, depth fog is kind of gonna be the next thing. These are tasks that I started or did some work on, but I don't want to yet call them done. But I'm kind of pausing them while I work on other stuff. Of course, number one, at least it should be, number one is work on the pitch. But the most important part for the pitch right now, I think, is the video. And so I need to work on the game to make the video. And these cloud and ash layers I worked on a little bit, but they're definitely not done. And they're still kind of on what I think I'm working on today. Okie doke, so there's that depth of field. I think I like that. Maybe that's too strong, but I think I like it. Oh, and that definitely needs to adjust faster. Because when you make certain changes in the scene while the game is in what they call play mode, then you lose them when you come back out. So I want to make the focusing speed a lot faster. That's what I wanted to do, was to play with this distance factor. Sometimes I get talking and I forget what the heck I was doing in the first place. So it is the clouds that are causing that stuff to happen. If I just because it's just so steep and my cloud layer is kind of low to begin with. I thought I raised the cloud layer up a little bit. I should do that. See, do I like that? That's a good cloud height, I think. Has to get a little bit off the ground. Maybe even a little more. Huh? What do you think? What's crazy is that wasn't even clouds, that was just like smoke, because the earth was so hot it was creating smoke according to my simulation. I like that. Ooh, I like how it blurs that smoke from that lava right there. So 1.5 is good for that. Render height. I lose a little bit of surface relative height. And then it kind of conforms a little bit. I think I like that. Maybe 50% surface relative. Okay, 50 and 1.5. That's the annoying thing, is I gotta remember those things now. I wanted to mess with the focus stuff of focusing. So if I zoom out, zoom in, I think I want to make that adjust faster, because that's kind of painful to look at when it's all blurry. So let's try to make that 10. Maybe even 20. Yeah, when you get really close, there's like nothing you can do but get blur. Unless I can change the aperture. Then I lose what I liked before. Like there's no blur around the rims of the planet. So I should probably adjust the aperture as well. So when the focus distance is 1, I like an aperture of about 4.7. So I want to write this down. If I can find some, my notebooks are full. So I'm going to write a little table here, focus distance and focus aperture. So focus distance is right about 1. I want it at 7.1 actually. And then I'm going to have to somehow make it lerp between these values, like create a curve out of this essentially. When I'm at 1.6, I want about 3.1. And then when I'm at 5.5, I'll increase that. Ooh, look how sharp that looks. Kind of like the sharp look too. I want it at about I like how that pops against it. Totally sharp. Alright man, catch you later. Yeah, that's too much blur. 0.5 is good. 0.5. That's also pretty cool. I don't know. So many choices. The sharpness of it looks cool. It's funny, it's kind of like you just like what you haven't seen in a little bit. When you're looking at blurry stuff, sharp looks nice. When you've been looking at sharp, soft looks nice. I think it looks too digital. Like the depth of field, the softness makes it more like less digital feeling to me. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I need some aperture curves. And I think that, yeah, I don't need the whole thing I was doing earlier. Alright, Tony, thanks. I'm glad you like it, and glad you've been there. Glad to have you in the stream, and I try to pick relatively interesting things to show when I'm streaming for usually about 2 hours, which I actually only got like 20 minutes left. But sometimes developing a game, sometimes you still have to get a little bit into the code. Sometimes you find bugs and stuff. So you know what? Sometimes I'm like focusing on the problem, then I take a step back and I look, oh yeah, look at this cool, let's plan it. And this is an idea I've had in my head only for maybe like 2 months, and I just started working on it, like actually writing code last week or maybe late the week before. So my goal is to get a good prototype that I can take to a publisher. I'm going to be going to a few events to hopefully speak with some, and I'm really on the fence about whether I'm going to have something that like is going to hook them. And the way this works, I don't know if you noticed this, but I have this simulation on the planet. Let me show you the wireframe. So this is the wireframe, and this is actually what I consider like a medium detailed model, even though it's pretty detailed. And at every vertex, I'm running all this simulation. And the way I can do that, even though if you look at the mesh, where's my mesh filter? It's got 40,962 vertices. Is because it's all happening on the GPU. I'm using compute shaders to do all the simulation. and even the deformation of the terrain and everything. So let me go back. Actually, that looks pretty cool. I tend to like the shaded wireframe in the editor viewport, and obviously normal in the game. And that gets really blurry. So I was gonna do the thing where I let the planet get a little blurry as I get away by reducing this, which kind of looks cool when you're really far away. But I also kind of like being able to see the planet, because that's kind of the focus of the game. So if I had other planets, what would be really cool is like, okay, you spend some time to create this planet, and then you boot up the game again, it's a new planet, but those old planets have been... Your daughter likes it? Awesome. That's cool. Well, that's a good sign that I'm making something that people might like, That's always, a big worry, you make something you like, but I tried to pick something that I thought would be fun for me to work on, but I thought also could have a market. It's not going to be $1 million blockbuster, but hopefully something that can support me. Well, I have an editor for the UI. So, so let me tell you how I'm describing this game. The first thing is, it's the only game where you have a pet planet. One of the other ways I describe it is that it's a relaxing God game, and then a third way is that it's an interactive idle game, which sounds like an oxymoron, but what I mean is you can't just let it go, let it do its thing. If you want, you can play with certain things. It's not going to have a whole crap ton of stuff you can do, but you can set up the initial conditions, like how far is it from its star, what's the axis that it tilts on as it rotates, and things like that. And then also you can do some terraforming, and you can actually do that. Let me turn off this depth of field for a second. Why is this not focusing? Because I played with the figures. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. You can paint terrain as it's going, and you can even do cool stuff like capture water. It simulates all this water. Have on your phone so you can keep it up while working. Yeah, I mean, the idea is kind of that. It's just running while you work, and then you can check back in on it. And I thought desktop would be good for that. There's this game called Mountain. That's kind of the only other game I can think of that's, I would say, is like trying to serve the same niche. But I was worried about making it into a phone thing for a couple reasons. But I'm on the fence. One is that it has to just be constantly running, and I worry about burning people's battery. I worry about making the phone really hot, and then also I'd have to look into, like, even if it's not in the foreground, can you still have your application doing all this complex stuff or not? My guess is with Unity, like, if someone swaps over to another app on their phone, it's gonna pause everything, which is maybe okay, I don't know. And if it's plugged in, the battery's not as much of an issue, so they're like basically technical issues. I think a phone should be fast enough because my laptop right now I'm running on an NVIDIA GPU, but I have another one that has an Intel integrated chipset, and so far that's running at a solid 60 FPS. And the other thing is the business case. Like, the mobile market is so hard. People want free apps, and it seems like most of how people make any money is to be a really big company that makes a free-to-play game, and then they can put a lot of money into marketing and analyzing the analytics and all that stuff. Could you pause time and processing just for mobile? I think it's possible. Would it take away? I think it could take away from it. I guess I don't really know how people would want to use it. Like, also, phones kind of turn off if you don't use them for a while. So, like, if you could somehow just like while you want, leave it running there and it's in the foreground and the phone's not turning off, and then you swap over something and it pauses and then you come back and just leave it there. You know, that could maybe work. But maybe a little tedious for the user, because they'd always have to remember to swap back, and they just somehow have to keep their phone on. Another thought I had, and this seems like something definitely would be like, if the game is successful on PC, I could maybe consider this, is to have like a cloud version where the cloud server's doing all the simulations and then it just sort of transmits the data to your phone. Because definitely when I talk about this, people think about it on the phone, and there's a lot that I think is a good fit for the phone, but also some things that are challenges. Oh yeah, but I wanted to. I love showing off my water simulation, so I'm gonna. A volcano just burst in right there, and it's causing all my water to evaporate, I think. Okay, so if I take my little painting brush here and I raise up some terrain. And you can see it like pushes the water around. And that volcano is kind of getting in my way. And then what I can do is kind of just like let it spill out. So I love playing with this. You know, I have a couple of GIFs that I've made from that, and that's one thing that I don't know if that I've thought about before, but I don't know if I had thought about it with this game, but it ends up working. Is like, I think if you can make a game that's GIFable, that's a really good thing to have, because that's like such a huge thing with, you know, how people will share stuff and find stuff these days. And it turns out I think the GIFs for this are pretty cool. I don't know if other people do, but you know, the game's not done yet, but example, I have, you know, some with the lava .gif. So here I paint a little island, or more like a continent, and then I just spill some lava on it. And I have another one. Thanks, man. Yeah. I'm glad you like it. That makes me feel really good. And the cool thing is, like, I'm a little bit torn. Sometimes I interrupt myself. The cool thing is it's all like simulated, and I'm trying to be pretty realistic with the simulation. But at the same time, I want it to be like, if you want like a relaxing thing where you don't have to really know technical stuff to be able to play with it and generate a lot of different variety of planets, so there's a little bit of tension there, because it's already like semi-realistic, but I want to do even more stuff to make the simulation as physically accurate as I can. But in the end, it is just a game, and I'm torn between like marketing it more like Mountain. There's a game called Mountain, which is like more like, I call it like an emotional experience, where you just sort of like watch the changing of seasons, and this mountain has like thoughts that it tells you, or something that's like, hey, cool simulator sandbox, you know, because it's kind of both, but I think I need to pick like a clear marketing message. And then here's another GIF. Like I said, so like I created this little continent, and I raised up some pools of water, and then I created a channel, and then I did speed it up for the GIF, but you can see it, you know, drain out into the sea and create two smaller little pools. So I don't know, I'm curious what your opinion would be on these GIFs, you know, if people would think, like, oh yeah, this is a cool thing that I would share on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. I guess those are the GIFs I have. Okay, so what the heck was... Oh yeah, I needed to do my focal distance stuff. And there was some other setting that I was playing with. Oh, the clouds. Yes, so... And I should turn my atmosphere back on. So I have like two spheres with the same shader but different material properties on them. So one renders this sort of like halo of an atmosphere around the planet, a kind of a uniform thing, and then the other is the clouds, and also like what I call particulate matter that comes, like ash and soot and stuff that comes out of volcanoes. And the rendering for that's not where it needs to be yet, but it's starting. But on the clouds, I have a thing where I can make it like at a fixed height around the planet, or I can make it kind of conform to the terrain a little bit, and I kind of like to make it halfway in between. And then I want to make the default height a little higher. I think they're cool. It helps get a bite-sized understanding. I could see them in an FB ad for sure. Cool. I have experimented with my previous game a little bit with Facebook ads, but really didn't seem to pay off at all. So, you know, even with ads, you know, you want them to be things that are viral. Like, you don't want to just, if every impression is a paid impression, then it's not going to work out for you, really. That, like, when you pay for the ad, it seems like it's just sort of the spark that starts the fire, but you need something that is inherently viral, and then that can multiply how many people see your thing, and then people, I think, are more likely to pay attention if it's being shared by someone they know as opposed to just an ad service. But I would love to see if I can just do stuff like that works on like Reddit and Twitter, and our own, like, if I can grow our own, you know, Facebook page, to just get that person-to-person kind of natural sharing without unpaid advertising. But I'm trying to think a lot about marketing, but I know I've been bad at it in the past, and which is one of the reasons why I want to work with a publisher, because they're, you know, they can dedicate the time to it and they have experience with it. So what I need to do here is I like different settings for the focal aperture at different distances from my planet. So I'm going to use those as a set of points, and then interpolate between the two nearest points to pick that setting. My little dynamic depth of field thing. So this is kind of crude, but what I'm going to do is just have a set of points in an array. Do I want to make a type for it? I guess I can make a type for it. Public struct. I'll call it DOF interpolation points, because theoretically I could add more than just the focal aperture to this at some point. We'll see. Distance. So that's kind of the input parameter, like the X on your graph, and then this will be the Y on your graph. Pretty sure. Public. Doesn't really need to be a list. I can just do an array. Interpolation points. Sure, why not? And then I can set those in the editor. And then let's get the aperture. Var DOF settings dot aperture. So I'm gonna make a little function that can do the interpolation for me. Float desired aperture equals interpolate distance interpolation points. My tricky thing is, you know, I was saying like, oh, what if I want to have other stuff here in the future? I want to be able to like reuse this code, but I'd have to make like a getter function that I pass in as well or something to be able to reuse it. But for now, I'll just do this. Close that off for a second. Come back to it. interpolate aperture, float, input, DF interpolation point, points. Okay. So the initial, I'm first going to do the outer bounds. So, no, this will work. Okay. So I want to loop through all the points and then find the first one that it's before, and then look. The first one that's after, and then back up a bit, basically. P equals P is less than points dot length P plus plus. Okay, if input is greater than or equal to. Oh, and somebody is home. I'll have to tell her to be a little bit quiet for the stream. And actually, I'm going to end the stream in just a few minutes, but I do want to get this part done before I go off the stream. Second index equals P int. But if I'm greater, I don't want to. No, that'll work. Max. So I don't want to go negative. And then I want to get an interpolation factor. Loop factor equals distance minus points first index dot distance divided by, because these 2 points can be the same point, I need to make sure I don't do divide by 0. Float range equals max 0.01, just to make sure I don't divide by 0. First index. So when this is all done, I should have a nice planet that always looks like most of it's in focus and just a little bit of soft edge around it, and that'll be really cool. Sometimes I like to rename stuff to be consistent. So because this can be really, if I'm at either edge of the range, this could actually like interpolate me beyond what I want, so I'm gonna clamp it by doing math.clamp 0.1. So now I will never have a value that's outside the range of the points that I specify. And what's wrong with this? Oh, I need an extra parentheses there. Okay, cool. Except that was a 9, not a left parenthesis C. I don't know how you say that singular actually. So I did the lerp factor, so now I just need to return the value. Equals dot lerp points first dot aperture points second dot aperture lerp factor. Return val. And what if this never happens? This is what I'll do. it is greater than... Wait, no, I did that backwards. Oh, no, that's right. If I've gone past it, then go back there. So basically, the loop just finds a stop point, but then the rest of it, outside the loop, I do the math. Say, okay, I found something, whatever it is. Now let's do the math. Let's do the math. We have the power. So if it never found anything, then this is just going to be 0, and so this will also be 0, and so I'll use the first thing. If I go beyond the end, then I'll just end up picking the last point, and so that'll all work. What's weird is I'm doing like a double interpolate. Because first I'm interpolating my points on my curve to pick a value, and then I have to move the DOF toward it. I mean, I could probably just directly set it, but interpolate makes it a little smooth, a little nice. I should pull this out into a variable. So what am I going from? From the original value to the desired value. And I'm definitely gonna have to debug this code, not just let it run, but actually step through. I always like to step through and make sure everything's doing just what I expect it to do. So input is 1.14. I didn't set up any points yet. That makes sense. I should probably make this possibly return nothing if there are no points. So then that won't crash. Yay, planet's doing things. Okay. Now let's actually set up the values that I figured out earlier by just playing with it in the editor. Did I not make... What I have to do, there's a tag you can do to make a struct. Oh, it's a system that's serializable, an attribute. Make sure it shows up in the editor. That's important to be able to edit the data that you wrote the script to rely on. So 3 points. 0.95, 7.1, 1.6 is 3.1, and then 5.5 is 0.5. So it kind of goes up and then back down. Interestingly enough. And this is about to be a huzzah moment, I'm pretty sure. So inputs, yeah, 1.14. I think I wrote this wrong. If it's greater than the distance, I want the first index to be that thing. That makes more sense. Let me just go ahead and stop it. No sense in doing anything further. I didn't mean to zoom in. And I want to make sure that I Don't pick a non-existent point. Ooh, that was almost a bug. Almost. Okay, so first index is 0. Wait. Actually, I should just break at that point. Just say, let's finish this. This nonsense is done for. Break! Let's break! Too many R's. Too many R's. Too many cooks. Too many cooks. That seems right. Now inputs. Yeah, stuff seems pretty in focus, I think. Yeah, and then I zoom out, and it's gonna be. Let me zoom way in to test the extremes. Oh, I have the wrong value. It's not distance factor. Oof, that was a bug. Stupid little bug. Okay, now it's gonna be huzzah. It's time for the huzzah. Yeah, seems right. Oh, look at that. It's adjusting. Adjusting. Should be 0. Yep, it's 0. Perfect. And then if I zoom way the heck out, that's right, 0.5. Then I need to test with like a middle. Ugh. Needs to adjust faster. Needs to focus way faster. Okay, so what's my input? Should be somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Yeah. So it should be between 1 and 2. Yeah. What is the input again? I guess that seems about right. 0.1. And the value is 2.7. Alright. So I think the only thing left is I need to make this speed like way higher, and I need to make sure it doesn't go over 1. That's looking pretty good. Yeah. Get a little. I think it is. Let me just check this here. It's a little too much. That's crisp. Yeah. Yeah. That's how it works. Okay. What did I want to adjust on it? Something. Just the focusing speed. Okay, well, I'm gonna sign off there. If you're still watching, I hope you enjoyed that. Saw stuff that I hope you think is cool, and I'll be back on tomorrow, same time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and ciao.